of South Africa. I salute you, not only because you are loyal to the EFF, but because you are loyal to the grassroots struggles of ordinary people, and even though you do not all suffer the conditions that the people you are trying to liberate are suffering. Comrades and fighters, many at times, the popular media and capitalists try to shame us for having certain privileges that the people we lead do not have. What escaped them is that despite the advantages we have in society, we continue to champion the struggle of the poorest of the poor, because we know that our happiness is incomplete while those we love, the masses of our people, are suffering. The leaders of the Feast Must Fall generation were registered students who knew that their education is incomplete while other students are unable to access education. They didn't have to be unregistered for them to fight for those who are unregistered. Even when they were privileged and registered students, they continued to fight for those who were not registered because they love an African child. The African lawyers and academics who led the struggles against apartheid did not face the same challenges as ordinary people, yet they did not hesitate to sacrifice their privilege to free Africans. Today, the EFF, led by parliamentarians who have unlimited airtime and unlimited data, led a struggle to oppose the expiration of data and airtime, because despite our privilege, we know where we come from and who make us who we are. I want to state it here and categorically, in case anyone is confused. The EFF is led the charge to defeat the expiry of data and airtime when no one else would. And ICASA has now agreed with the EFF that data and airtime must not expire. It is this EFF that fights for the insourcing of security guards and cleaners, even though we as leaders do not have a history of occupying such roles. It is the EFF that fights against student debt, even though as leaders we can afford to pay for our education. We do this out of principle, and because to be a revolutionary is about the content of one's mind and not about what clothes you wear or what cars you drive. We are the people's vanguard and champion of the working class because we possess the ability to fight for that which we do not need, because we recognize that our access to a better life is incomplete while the black child lives in poverty. The EFF remains the representative of the working class and of the downtrodden and the forgotten masses of our people. It does not matter where we stay. It does not matter what we eat. Our consciousness prevails over us because we are products of poverty we want to defeat today. Commissars and fighters, we are gathered here today to plan for the success of the revolution because victory loves preparations. This plenum presents us with an opportunity to reflect on the progress we have made thus far, but also to outline the plan and the path to victory in the upcoming local government elections. Guided by our 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars, our founding manifesto, every action we take, every policy position we propose, to be it in municipal councils, provincial legislatures, or parliament, we take one step forward towards economic freedom in our lifetime. The current conditions are harsh on African people, as our people drown in unemployment, crime, gender-based violence, and failing economy. The government of the day has failed by all developmental metrics to ease the conditions of our people, and it may be fair to argue that conditions under the GNU have become worse. Comrades, the situation is made worse by the hostile environment internationally, wherein we are seeing the rise of politics of empire and imperialism led by the United States of America. It will be irresponsible for us to reflect on our domestic conditions without taking into consideration that our lives are determined by what happens across the world. Commissars, those who have claimed that Marxism and Leninism are outdated ideas are now confronted with the highest prophecies of Marx and Lenin. That is the rise of imperialism as the highest form of capitalism. The Western and capitalist world is beginning to eat itself alive, and the anchor that will destroy Western society is the very nation that has been the most aggressive in its capitalism, the USA. As capitalism collapses, there is a growing sense that we are returning to the age of colonialism and domination through military strength rather than cooperation and consensus. The stage we are in is what Lenin refers to as the final stage of capitalism, destiny of crisis and collapse. The USA is currently in pursuit of territorial divisions of the world in order to control global markets and provide greater influence of global corporations over the natural resources of society. It is a nation led by paranoid and possibly mentally ill individual who has no regard for international law, for the logic of economy, and for the science of politics. As a result, we are all faced with a crisis because for too long, capitalism has been dominating economic order of the world. As socialists, it is our duty in these moments to see the silver lining, and that is, as capitalism collapses, we are given an opportunity to usher in a new world order based on equality, prosperity for all, and the return of the means of production into the hands of the people. We must not view the current international moment as one of despair, but within it, we must mobilize resistance, solidarity, and a new era of humanity. This new era is one where the USA no longer exists as the so-called leader of the free world. It is a new era where humanity must speak boldly against the presence of US military bases in foreign countries. It is a new era wherein we must divorce the global economy from dependency on the dollar. It is an era where we technological advancement and military capacity must be built by all nations so that we can defend ourselves against the threat of US imperialism. Comrades, inasmuch as Donald Trump is a manifestation of tyranny and fascism, he is not a major departure from the core of what represents the character of the USA. The USA has always been imperialistic. The USA has always been a destabilizing force in the world. What has changed is that the leader of the USA today pursue the destructive policies of the USA openly without pretending to be seeking peace. Donald Trump is the naked face of what the USA has always been: violent, imperialist, and evil. It was the president of the USA, Truman, who dropped the atomic bomb on the innocent people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, killing more than 200,000 people. It was Johnson of the USA who invaded Vietnam and under his authority undermined the human rights. It was George Bush who led the disinformation campaign that Iraq and Afghanistan had weapons of mass destruction in order to justify causing instability in those nations in order to steal their oil. Fellow fighters, it was Barack Obama who orchestrated the death of brother leader Muammar Gaddafi. Until today, Libya has not recovered and our African brothers are sold in a slave trade in that region. I say this to highlight to you that Donald Trump is simply continuing a tradition of violence as foreign policy by the USA. When Trump invaded Venezuela and kidnaps Nicolas Maduro, he is continuing a tradition of violence as foreign policy. When Trump bombs Nigeria, bombs Iran, and finds genocides of people of Palestine as a means to entrench U.S. imperialism. I've said this before, that any expectation that after Donald Trump's term comes to an end, that our relationship with the USA will stabilize is misplaced. Donald Trump is an extension of a history of destructive U.S. foreign policy, and as long as South Africa stands with Palestine, then we will never know peace. It is therefore important to be aware of this as we head to local government elections here in South Africa, and be aware of the possibility of U.S. interference in our elections, be it through funding our ideological opponents, attempting to fracture our democracy using tribal lines and traditional leaders, or actively pursuing the imprisonment of leaders of the left in our country. This election is not one that will be purely domestic, especially considering the propaganda machinery deployed against South Africa of a non-existent white genocide. We must begin to prepare ourselves for the worst, as the USA is determined to punish South Africa for standing up against apartheid Israel. We must never surrender, even in the face of imperialism or death. We must never be shaken, and we must never compromise our sovereignty to please the United States of America. Commissars and fighters, the conditions facing our people in South Africa have become more dire. That starvation has become a prominent cause for death. Central to the crisis confronting our nation is collapsing municipalities which are unable to conduct basic service delivery and have become increasingly dependent on tendering and consultancy firms. Municipalities in South Africa are run by officials, and elected public representatives account to these officials more than they do to the people who elected them. City managers, CFOs, and COOs are the government of the day, and these individuals control politicians by colluding with them in crippling our municipalities. And these public representatives agree to be used by the city managers, CFOs, and CEOs to collapse and steal from the poor of the poorest. Our communities are suffering rolling electricity and water outages, while large companies bribe their way out of paying for the use of these resources. The largest consumer of water and electricity are not the people in the suburbs or the township, but the companies. Yet it is our people who bear the brunt of rising prices of their household. We need to, in this plenum, develop a strategy of taking back our municipalities from the hands of officials and placing them back under the control of the people through councillors who are not corrupt. This plenum must come out with an idea of what is an ideal municipality and how can it sustain itself and our communities. If we do not do this analysis, then we will win broken municipalities without any ideas how to revive them. And we will lose elections because our people will blame us for a broken system. Comrades, over and above that, the budget, after budget, it is the EFF which stands alone to call out how equitable share model of national treasury works, which allocates least amounts of money to municipalities, which is illogical and outdated. The logic of national treasury, which presumes that municipalities can sustain themselves through revenue collection and presumes that municipalities are resilient across the board, is a recipe for failure. We need to review the equitable share model, which subject the cold face of service delivery, which is municipalities, to smaller allocation than provincial and national government. The presumption that rural and township municipalities ought to sustain themselves through revenue collection alone in the same way metropolitan areas do is tragic, especially considering that the residents in rural and township municipalities are largely unemployed. We must never get tired of making this point, because at the center of the collapse of our municipality is national treasury's illogical fiscal planning around our state infrastructure. Comrades, as much as we may be pleased with the victories of eliminating the expiry of data, there is a bigger war we need to wage against the price for electricity. It has become a norm that every quarter NERSA announces a hike in electricity prices, condemning our people to a life of misery and hardship. We must, at the center of our elections campaign, put the crisis of the cost of electricity. Enough is enough. Our people cannot go on like this without any form of action. Comrades, it is a lie that we must dispel now that load shedding has ended in South Africa. It has simply been given another name called load reduction. It is as bad as load shedding. We cannot, as leaders of society and as the media, participate in a state-sponsored lie that South Africa has recovered from electricity crisis. To do so will be to form part of misinformation and the election strategy of the former liberation movement, which will be based on the lie that they fixed a problem which they created in the first place. A week does not pass without a blackout of electricity in one community or another in South Africa. The people of Soweto live a life of darkness while we accept a lie that things have been turned around. We must champion these struggles, and this plenum must emerge with a concrete strategies on how we will rescue communities from darkness. Comrades, the challenges of hunger are destroying our communities. It pains my heart when I hear that children in the Eastern Cape have died of hunger. We must, as branches, identify families who are in need, as it is not an African that children can die of hunger while they exist in a community. This must be an adopted program of each and every branch and sub-region of the EFF, and those families must be helped without exposing them or humiliating them for social media. I want to take this opportunity to once again send my deepest condolences to the families of those who lost their children in that tragic accident of scholar transport in the Vaal. My heart bleeds for those families who had to recover the bodies of their children after such horrific accident. We send our condolences to all the victims of floods in all provinces that are affected by the floods. We must outlaw informal scholar transport and push for the state-owned scholar transport in all municipalities. A buggy and a van is not a scholar transport, and those who drive children on our roads to school must be vetted and registered with the Department of Basic Education to avoid irresponsible people being custodians of the lives of our children. Commissars and fighters, the hunger of our people is unbearable. It is due to a struggling economy and joblessness. All industries in our country are on a downward spiral, and we are rapidly deindustrializing as a nation. Our failure to industrialize and build infrastructure capacity is why we are easily blackmailed by nations such as the USA, because there is no internal capacity to survive and trade amongst ourselves in the continent. Every day, we are told of retrenchment in massive industries such as steel and automotive industry, and this GNU has no strategy or plan to reverse the decline. We will never defeat poverty if we do not build industries, because industries are jobs. The election manifesto of the EFF must speak to strategies to localize development and industry, and this plenum, through commissions, must provide such guidance. Commissars and fighters, the people of South Africa are held hostage and are at the mercy of criminals. Week after week, we witness mass shooting in the city of Cape Town, which is led by the DA, and there is no solution to that crisis. The former mayor of Cape Town, Helen Zille, who leads the DA today, wants to be the mayor of Johannesburg, leaving behind the dead bodies in Cape Town, where the DA has failed the poorest of the poor. The first question Helen Zille must be asked is, what is her party doing about crime in the city of Cape Town, that now she thinks she is worthy of leading the city of Johannesburg? As the EFF, we need to stand up against criminals and take them toe for toe in defense of our communities. The EFF continues to lead the fight against crime in Parliament by making progressive proposals to strengthen law enforcement and investigate the root cause of this crisis. This fight must be taken up by our councillors in communities. We must establish EFF-led community protection programs and apprehend criminals. You are not a revolutionary if you know the house of a drug dealer or a rapist in your community, yet you sit and do nothing about it. The time to accept that criminals can stay amongst us must come to an end. Stand up, South Africa, stand up, fighters, and chase away drug dealers, and chase away women abusers, and chase away gangsters in your communities. It is on that note that I wish to commend the EFF Youth Command, which through its Sizofunda Ngenkane campaign also launched an initiative to get those who are selling admission in institutions of higher learning arrested. The Youth Command must never retreat or be intimidated by criminals who take advantage of the desperation of our people who are trying to get an education. Let me make it very clear, even if this includes EFF Youth Command members who are selling spaces, you must go open cases against them and get them arrested, because we do not exist with criminals and will not tolerate criminals amongst ourselves. No one in the Youth Command must take advantage of the poor, of the poorest. You must always be combat ready to help the poor of the poorest without expecting anything in return, including without expecting them to vote for you. You are helping them genuinely because you are helping an African child. The Youth Command will play an important role in the coming local government elections and must begin to build solid and verifiable election structures that will mobilize young people in all spheres of society. We need mass registration of young people all over South Africa, led by the Youth Command. The Youth Command must be at the forefront to mobilize the youth of South Africa to participate in the local government elections. We are nothing without the youth of South Africa. If the youth of South Africa turn out on an election day, we have already won this election, and we will win this election with the Youth Command leading the charge. Commissars and fighters, as an organization, we find ourselves at the moment of where we either thrive or perish. It's now or never. If we decline in this election, we must pack our bags and go home. We must go to a battlefield ready to die to emerge victorious in these elections. We are going to do everything in our power to ensure that the EFF retain its constituency and break new grounds in areas where it never existed. We have built sub-regional structures in an effort to take our organization back to the people, and our primary focus should be directed and should be direct interaction with each and every South African voter in order to convince them of the ideas of the EFF. We must, commissars and fighters, ensure that sub-regional structures meet regularly, and a standing agenda item ought to be service delivery programs and elections. We must ensure that our branches meet regularly, and councillors must convene community meetings to engage society and fix the problems confronting them. This is mandatory, and any councillor who fails to convene community meetings and resolve everyday challenges confronting our people will face the harsh consequences of the organization. All sub-regional command teams must embark on verification of all the voting districts, election task forces, and establish strict volunteers in each and every ward and each and every street. The work of elections begin today, and we must know how many soldiers we have for the war to come. There must be zero tolerance for anyone who misleads the organization and provides information to manipulate the leadership into thinking we have volunteers in instances where we do not have. Leadership is disciplined and honest, and dishonesty is tantamount to treason in the revolution. Fellow fighters, this will be a testing period which will demand utmost discipline from all of us. There will be no tolerance for laziness and ill discipline. There will be no tolerance for people who are given tasks and do not fulfill them. Each and every one of you seated here must be able to take individual and collective responsibility for the work of the organization, and this includes fundraising and organizing resources for elections. Commissars and fighters, the time for unity in the organization is now. There is no room for division and factionalism. You must know that if you partake in such, then you are an infiltration which is sent to destroy the EFF. Remove envy of one another. Resist the temptation to undermine others and lead in alone without consulting the collective. Respect your leadership. Know that the EFF is a party that leads and government follows. We don't take government responsibility to be the responsibility replacing those of the party. The party leads, government follows. As long as we've got an organization, there will always be a government. Fellow fighters, we need to ensure that we promote the organization above everything else, and as our constitution guides us, avoid taking personal glory for the work of the collective. As we enter this phase of election, you must avoid using I did Malemaville. I established Malemaville. I did this, I did that. Why didn't you establish Malemaville when you were in primary? Why didn't you establish Malemaville when you were in the youth league? Why did you wait for the EFF to encourage people to occupy the land and take over the land and stay in those pieces of land for you to now claim to be a hero in the area where you come from? Avoid personal glory and always promote organizational collective glory over victories that are won in the organization. As we enter this phase of elections, which will be characterized by a mayoral candidate, let us choose the best amongst us and rally behind our mayoral candidate. Let us know our strength and limitation. The mayoral candidates of the EFF will not automatically be a leader of a sub-region or a province or even the CCT, but we will be determined who we send while ensuring that we do not weaken the organization in other areas of governance and responsibility. Let us discuss here in this Plenum the caliber of an EFF mayor, because the days where the EFF supports other organizations to have mayors have come to an end. We will field mayors, and anyone who wants to negotiate with the EFF must know that the EFF wants mayorship. To our MMCs, it may be time to strap your boots on and head to the ground, because the attitude of the ANC seems to be one of disrespect towards the EFF, and it does not look like the ANC appreciates that it does not govern on its own in municipalities, especially here in Gauteng. We must stop any negotiation with the ANC, and where the ANC removes our MMC, all of you as MMCs are going to resign, and that cooperation stop immediately with the ANC. Where the ANC fields a mayor as a candidate, we are going to field the mayor as a candidate. where a motion of no confidence is passed against an ANC mayor, we are going to support that motion of no confidence against an ANC mayor, especially here in Gauteng. We will not be voting for the budget of the Gauteng MEC of Finance here in Gauteng. The ANC knows that without the EFF and MK, they will never pass the budget. We will mobilize the MK to support our campaign, not to support the budget of the EFF in Gauteng, because we are supporting them in KZN for motion of no confidence against the EFF. Whether you like it or not, that's where politics work. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. They think they can treat the EFF like that and do as they please with us, especially in Ikuruleni. Very soon, they will reap the consequences of their disrespect and disregard of the EFF. Those who are close with them, go and tell them that they will be learning a lesson very soon, that the EFF is not to be disrespected. Fellow fighters, the past is behind us. The EFF has proven its strength on the ground and across all spheres of government. In this year of 2026, do not waste your energy on those who have made it their mission to misunderstand you. We must at all times defend the organization. Build our primary objective now is to talk to the masses of our people. We have improved qualitative, and now with sub-regional structures in place, we are in position to take over this country municipality by municipality. It is time that we win municipalities, and in this plenum, each and every province must make a commitment that you will return from local government elections with at least one municipality if you fail. One province, one municipality. This is the minimum, and we, where possible, like in the Northwest, the former liberation movement has collapsed. We must go for everything. The Eastern Cape is one of our primary targets because the people of Eastern Cape are tired of living a life of indignity. There is an appetite for the EFF in Eastern Cape, and we must build capacity so that we can rescue our people from suffering and humiliation. The comrades of Gauteng are in for a massive battle because the metropolitans of Gauteng are going to be battleground in these elections. We want to see the leadership of Gauteng on the streets every day, servicing our people in all communities, including in the colored community and in the suburbs. I'm informed that Ipsos will be giving a presentation here tomorrow. That presentation must be listened to attentively because the EFF will be in the EFF. We believe in science. It was Ipsos ahead of the 2024 national elections which told us that the support of the EFF is increasing amongst the educated and the so-called middle class. The leadership of Gauteng must listen to that and stop running away from the suburbs and only campaigning in squatter camps and informal settlements. The educated people of our country believe in the EFF and support the EFF. Stop gatekeeping the EFF from them because you fear competition. Take the EFF to the people. Do not personalize the EFF as if it's your own property. To the comrades of Limpopo, especially in the northern areas such as Giyani, Musina, Makado, you have a lot of work to do there. The result where one political party gets 80% and upwards in those areas must come to an end. Go and fight for the votes there because our people are made to live like animals, but they do not see a political alternative. To the leadership in KZN, it is time to fight for a rightful place in that province because the people of KZN are beginning to realize that they made a big mistake in 2024 elections. The people of KZN were in search of a father figure, voted for people who do not have a clue of what they are doing. And as a result, nothing is changing in KZN for the betterment of the lives of our people. Do not be scared when we say to you, support MKP to govern in KZN, because that is the will of the voters. The voters must be given that which they voted for and experience the mess they voted for. They must govern so that they do not campaign on a ticket that they were denied a chance to govern when they got the majority vote. Comrades in the Northern Cape, the province is up for grabs. You already dropped them to below 50% in the last election. And they held on to power by guaranteeing our land in Orania in exchange for racist votes. You must humble them again to the point that even when they want to sell the Northern Cape to racists in exchange for political power, they will not be able to do so. In Mpumalanga, we must regain our status as the official opposition, and where possible, we must win municipalities outrightly. We have been strong in Mpumalanga, and now it is time for us to govern that province and lead from the front in the same way we have seen in the legislature where the EFF is the real opposition in Mpumalanga. To the comrades in the Western Cape, the results in 2024 and the 12th anniversary we held in that province last year is an indicator that the city of Cape Town is up for grabs. We must campaign aggressively, especially in the Cape Flats, and no place must be a no-go area for the EFF. I want to encourage the leadership in the Western Cape to invest in the other sub-regions and regions such as Southern Cape, West Coast, and areas such as Overberg and the Cape Winelands. Our voters are there in the farms and in the townships. They are ready to vote for the EFF. Fighters in the Free State, your mission ought to be to capture Bloemfontein and Metsimaholo. The people of Bloemfontein have been living in a sewer for too many years and are readily available to vote for the EFF. And you must continue upward trajectory of votes since last elections. To the members of the CCT, we are going to deploy you where we think you may add the most value and where maximum impact will be required. We will be campaigning for victory across all municipalities, but strategically, we must target the metros. Many criminals have formed political parties out there for the sole purpose of getting 1 or 2 seats and then coming to extort the bigger political parties for strategic positions in municipalities. We must make it impossible for hustlers and criminals to even get a single seat, and we must do so by winning as many votes as possible. Let us go to the ground commissars and fighters. Let us say goodbye to our families, because from today, our time and our lives belong to the EFF. A day must not pass without doing something in service of the EFF and in service of the people. Go to the ground, clean our communities, open soup kitchens, adopt schools, adopt a family, fix the roads, fix sewer problems yourselves, because you are the Malemas of your own community. No one will help our people except for the EFF. Let us unite and defend our movement and advance the struggle of our people towards economic freedom in our lifetime. Let us go and work the ground and make sure that the EFF emerges victorious. The people are willing to vote for the EFF. They are waiting to see the seriousness of the EFF. The power is in your hands. Make sure that you utilize that power very carefully. Those of you who have friends in the ANC and want to confuse that friendship for the destruction of the EFF, we will not tolerate that. We will not tolerate anyone who want to compromise the independence of the EFF because he is friends with those people in the former liberation movement. Comrades, it is your individual responsibility as much as it's a collective responsibility. You ought to ask yourself a question. Am I going to win my ward? If I call myself a commissar and I do not win a ward, who do I represent? If I call myself a councillor and I do not win a ward, who do I represent? If I'm a member of parliament and I do not have a ward, who do I represent? If I'm a member of the provincial legislature and I do not win a ward, who do I represent? What do I mean by this? I expect your individual report about the performance of your individual wards after the elections, and failure to give a convincing explanation as to why you lost your ward, yet you are earning millions every year from the EFF, then the organization will have to take very serious decisions in relation to our participation going forward. We are tired of pushing wheelbarrows. We are tired of covering wheelbarrows. We are tired of covering opportunists. We are tired of covering those who failed in the ANC and want to use the EFF as a step ladder to power. We want leaders who are on the ground, who are serving the masses every day, who are serving the poor of the poorest. The time is now. Go and show that you are not a wheelbarrow, you are a committed soldier of the revolution. The time is now to bring victory into the house of Winnie Madikizela Mandela and say to her, in her grave, we will never surrender. We have never surrendered. Even under difficult times, we are ushering victory in the house of the revolution. Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Salute.
Elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe jojo, elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Elilizwe juju, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Elilizwe jojo, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe jojo, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe jojo, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe jojo, elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama, elilizwe lokhokobe, elilizwe labantu abamnyama. Amandla, viva EFF, viva, hoza 2026, hoza. Hoza 2026 hoza amandla ngawethu. Thank you very much, President, for such a powerful, inspiring speech. Commissars, fighters, we've come to the end of today's session, but before we close our session, I'm going to call upon the SG to give us the announcements. Over to you, SG.
Amandla. Viva EFF, viva. Viva EFF, viva. Kina fighter, kina. Kina fighter, kina. Long live the Commander-in-Chief, long live. 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 Amandla. Thank you very much. National Chair, President, officials, commissars, fighters. Once again, thank you very much, President. Siyabonga. Kuthiwa wona endlebe uzwile. Ngeke sisaphinda into eyodwa. What's going to happen now, fighters, as the national chair said, that we're going to adjourn. We're going to go back to the places where we were doing registration. And provincial secretaries, you're going to lead from the front to make sure that all the logistics in terms of allocation of rooms, they are done and every fighter has been accommodated and that is done correctly. So we're going to do that with maximum discipline. We get taken to our rooms, and then from 6 o'clock, we're going to communicate the places where we're going to have dinner. One of them is the one that we had dinner, and the other one is going to be Serengeti. But the leadership of provinces, they are in charge of their delegation. So we must not find anyone roaming around and not accounted for. We are here to work, as the President has said. We're going to do this work from today up until Sunday. No one is going to be found anywhere. Anyone who's found in Johannesburg, President, we are not responsible for that person because everyone else has been accommodated by the organization here in this venue. If you do your own things, that is none of our business. So it's going to be maximum discipline. Let's focus on the work that we need to do. Thank you very much, National Chair.
Thank you very much.